Yes! I am the... Oh, fuck, the app crashed. Well, I guess it's time to critically review the Nutshack, which is a lot like... Well, critically reviewing the Nutshack, I don't really have anything ridiculous. The Nutshack was a short-lived animated comedy on Mix TV. You may recognize Mix TV on your local dish listings between ESPN 13 and MTV Saudi Arabia. Mix is a TV channel based in Quezon City, the Philippines, and it was basically designed to replace MTV Philippines in the year 2000. In 2007, Mix expanded into Mix TV, a TV channel based in America aimed for a pan-Asian American audience. And I think it's good that there's a channel for Asian outreach in the US. I know Hispanics only have one English language channel, and it's basically the Dust and Headache channel if I'm being honest. I'm sorry, Robert. I love you. It's just not for me. The Nutshack was an inaugural program for Mix TV, airing its first 9-episode season in 2007, and then a second season of 7 episodes 4 years later. The Nutshack was created by Ramon Lopez and Jesse Hernandez. It was the first American TV show created by and aimed at a Filipino-American audience, a demographic of about 3.5 million, mind you, not a small portion of the population. So the show has been a meme on the YouTube for a while now, with its catchy and somewhat milquetoast intro theme, so I thought I'd check out the show behind the meme. The show was always known for being terrible, and to my surprise, everyone else was right.
Cause I'm about the bitches, and you're about the snitches. And when I get arousal, my pants needs the stitches. Hey!
The plot involves Jack, a somewhat naive but intelligent boy from Metro Manila who moves to the Bay Area to live with his cousin Phil, a wannabe barrio little shitbag, and his uncle, Richard Cabeza, my grandpa. They all live in the Metro Bay Area and do absolutely nothing.
Don't drink. What's wrong with you, man? Well, you hit that Bob Marley, right?
Flim flam Marley gone jicky dicky spruce caca.
Man, all of these characters are just really terrible people. I don't like any of them. Most of them are introduced in the theme song, so let's knock 2 birds with 1 stone and really examine it. After we establish that it is indeed the Nutshack, whatever that means, we establish that Phil is from Frisco, which I assume means San Francisco, the big city in the Bay Area. And Jack's from the PI, which is the Philippines? I never heard that abbreviation before. Apparently, I googled it and PI stands for Philippine Islands, a term used during U.S. occupation of the islands. And apparently it's pretty controversial in the Filipino community whether you should use PI. So, yeah, that seems like something this show would push the buttons on. It's certainly no stranger to button pushing. Horatio the Horat so big-eyed, possibly because he's a Tasmanian tiger devil, and, they have big eyes compared to their tiny little bodies. Tito, Dick Man Baby, tells you that Tito Dick is the Dick Man Baby. Part Dick, part man, part baby. This actually confused me for a little bit. I thought Tito was his first name, and that Dick Man was his last name, I guess. I'm not sure. Apparently, Tito is used in the Pinoy community to mean uncle, similar to the Spanish word tío. But in Spanish, Tito is a given name, like Tito Puente, for example. So that confused me a little bit. Not the most confusing thing about the show, but I thought it was worth pointing out. Despite this being a Filipino show, the Pinoy and Mexican communities seem similar enough to each other that I thought I could relate to some of the stuff in here. But man, I was really confused by some of what I saw. Dickman raised Phil and loves the ladies, which is implied that he raised Phil. We don't really see any other adults around supervising them. Cherry Pie is another one and still a virgin. I'm not sure why that's not worth mentioning. She's not terribly known for making a big deal out of it. I mean, Cherry Pie's a big flirt, but I don't know if the virginity has really nothing to do with it. She's not terribly desperate. Also, Chita, meet the freak a da wika. Chita's character trait is the woman, and that's it. Jack wants to score with her, but that's not happening either. Then the rapper tells us to shake it like a seizure, which is terrible because either and seizure don't fucking rhyme. Also, seizures. It's not really a good dance move unless you're entering the Pentecostal nightclubs. I'm not allowed in them anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and just take a guess that grapes is supposed to be slang for weed, since they're both green and they come in bundles. I would suspect that they used purple grapes to, get away from the censors, but I don't think the censors were anywhere within 10 miles of this goddamn show. If we are comparing produce to marijuana, we didn't have to wait that long before we found a better comparison. And I don't know who the hell this rapper is supposed to be. He's in episode 8 on a TV show. We'll get to that piece of shit later. I don't know how full your history is of these Nutshack intro distortions. So if you watch as many of those as I do, then you probably know all the lyrics to this song by heart. I can also guarantee you these memes are much more entertaining than anything this show has to offer. Other characters include Sanji, an Indian man who sells liquor and porn. Cherry Pie, just to elaborate, is a Vietnamese trans woman. It actually took me a while to figure it out that Cherry Pie was supposed to be trans. See, this is the kind of show that would equate trans with being really, really camp gay. And the way the characters talk about her doesn't make it exactly clear. So it was pretty hard to tell. Also in the show are Ed and Angel. Basically, Cheech and Chong who work in an auto shop and without the chemistry. This show gets accused a lot of being a ripoff of Friday the Animated Series, which is totally fair. The thing about these hood comedies like the Friday series is that, even though the situation is rough, they aren't quite so cynical. You can watch the Friday movies or how you can watch Black Jesus. And these types of TV, they have characters that, you may like or at least are fleshed out. They may act like jackasses, but at least there's an element of humanity, goals, and hobbies. They're more than cheap stereotypes and caricatures. And honestly, I was surprised by how uncomfortable the stereotypes in this thing was. I mean, I get the Filipino stereotypes. That's kind of the raison d'etre of the show. The creators are Filipino. Most of the characters are. But look at, Sanjay, Cherry, Ed, even Dwayne, I'll concede that. There's not a lot of jokes with their stereotypes. They're just lazily written and very irritating characters. They're really hard to like. I read that some people like Cherry because she's more optimistic and comfortable with herself than the rest of the cast. I can see that, but at the same time, if this character was written to be inspiring, I guarantee that was completely by accident. Oh, and there's this fucking character, Rainbow Scout. He's supposed to be this really camp gay stereotype, and that's all his joke is. He's big, muscular, and he is fabulous. In episode 8, he molests Jack, and then Jack joins a hip-hop group and they make a music video about killing him, and it's
that shit. Ooh, the Rainbow Scout is dead. I'm gonna shoot him in his fucking head.
Oh man, this was actually really uncomfortable because, hey, hip-hop during this era was not exactly gay-friendly. Actually, it was not gay-friendly at all. In fact, it was quite hostile toward gay people. So, when they use this caricature and the music video comes up, I mean, I understood the context, but there was still a part of me, and I thought, oh my god, this is what these people think gay is, and they're going on the offensive here. It's scary to see, this camp guy and these rappers talk about wanting to kill him, even if it was, justified in universe.
Tune into the Nutsacks, bitch! www.thenutsacks.net, bitches! Woo, woo!
What you see on your screen here has not been edited by me. Trust me, I don't know how to edit for shit. This is all just footage from the show. I could take random clips from the Control-Alt-Delete cartoon and splice them in here, and I bet most people probably couldn't tell. Hell, both of those shows are so bland anyway, they would probably fuse together like cheap vanilla pudding. This animation is woefully flat and just incredibly cheap. And if you're gonna have this cheap animation, maybe don't have such detailed or ugly character designs. It just looks grotesque, and not in an appealing way. Like John K. and Uncle Joe, yeah, they have cheap animation styles, but they go off model. There's a fluidity to them, but with this kind of flash animation, it just doesn't look appealing at all. And, I hope I don't get burnt in the internet fire for mentioning John K. and Uncle Joe in the same sentence. Also, all these characters have 4 fingers. I mean, yeah, most cartoons have 4-fingered characters. It's a good way to save money. But in this one, it's really obvious because, they usually don't have the fingers all fanned out like that. Or so big. God damn. And the sound editing leaves a lot to be desired too. Sometimes the BGM is too quiet and sometimes it's too loud. Sometimes these sound effects don't even work when they got it. Listen to this.
What's wrong with you, bitch?
We're gonna die!
In most typical hood comedies, there's an element of humanity or some kind of weird urban fantasy element that kind of makes it come to life, especially to some country bumpkin like myself who never lived in a city with more than 3,000 people. It also doesn't help that these just are very disparate animation styles. I mean, after 9 episodes, I got used to it, but man, it was really hard for me to get used to the fact that these were all the same characters in the same program. They just look really different.
What the fuck? How did you get his gun?
This little faggot didn't even notice me walk up and take it.
Still, you didn't have to shoot him.
Cheetah, this is a cartoon. Oh, what the shit?
I watched 9 episodes for the purpose of this review, and they all sucked. Here's a super cut of all the jokes I found funny in watching over 3 hours of content.
Smoke your ass.
What the hell?
Yo, the last one to crap on a celebrity is Ja Rule. Thug life.
Wait, where's Horat?
Trying to hang himself.
Oh my god.
I wanted to let you know that if one of us has to die, I hope it is you.
It would have probably made me a better reviewer if I had watched the second season as well, given that it's only 7 episodes. But I guess 1, I highly doubt there was anything in the second season that would redeem the first. And 2, it took me forever to finally make another video. I didn't want to delay it with anything unnecessary. Although, who knows, if this video is popular enough, I'll capitalize off its success by doing a special evaluation on the second season episodes. To be honest, I actually kind of want to. Apparently there's an episode that involves W. Bush trying to turn everyone white using a machine. In 2011. Kind of late with the W. Bush jokes. There was this one episode called Blind Dick, which was a parody of the Japanese franchise Satoichi, the Blind Samurai. But if you're like me though, then you probably know this from the illusion that was in the Boondocks episode Granddad's Fight. In fact, while I was watching this episode, I googled on my phone Blind Samurai to try and understand, what exactly they were referencing. And I got Boondocks characters in the Safari autocomplete result. I'll admit, it's hella ambitious for a show this trashy and cheaply made to make an entire episode a reference to something so obscure to any Americans not in the Pan-Asian demographic. This was probably the best episode in that at least it had something to offer. But I don't want to give it too much credit though. The production values are still garbage and the writing is horrendously boring. That's true of all the episodes and it's true of this one. Also, is there anyone out there whose sense of humor relies on relatively obscure foreign entertainment in one circle and then shoving shish kebabs inside one's ass in another circle and then where those Venn diagrams meet, that is the Nutshack? Is there anyone like that? I was also really excited for the episode right after this. It's ostensibly a 24 parody, but they actually never do that much with it. The plot involves Bob Saget ridding the Bay Area of marijuana for vengeance, but it's so strange and the stakes are so underplayed, it didn't feel that different from any other episode I'd seen. They used the 24 split screen thing about twice, and then, nothing. This is as superficial as parodies get. Episode 8 involves Jack trying to act more black, but frankly this urban caricature is so similar from the usual behavior of the characters, or at least Phil, it's kind of hard to tell the difference where Filipino ends and black begins. Also, this is the episode where the rapper from the intro begins. He's appearing on Mix. He has a show on Mix, the actual in-universe. That is just a really shameless plug.
Oh, we come at you live from the Yang area, Northern California. Don't let the stunning shades fool you on the livest music channel around, y'all. Mix, home of the biggest booties but donkeys, Asian spawn, but American grown. Yay, my ninja!
You know, usually when a TV show mentions what station it's on, the practice is to be self-deprecating and bite the hand of the network. Learn from The Simpsons. The Simpsons has mastered making fun of Fox. Also, I don't get why Jax touches the TV like he's so mesmerized by it. You know, they have TV in Metro Manila. Where do you think Mix comes from? Also, isn't Jack supposed to be a tech wizard? I don't know, this just seemed weird to me. One of the episodes has a B-plot about two ducks that act like Tupac and Snoop Dogg for no discernible reason. Episode 4 basically has everyone getting plastic surgery, and then at the end it reverses. That's literally all you need to know about the episode. And then the last episode of this season was surprisingly long, clocking in at about 29 minutes instead of the usual 22. This is a superhero episode based on Phil having dick powers and Jack having ass powers. Tito Dick plays a superhero who wants to take over Dali City and then all of California. Dwayne is a scientist. Yeah, I don't get it either. All the jokes are usually disgusting in lieu of being funny. This show's sense of humor is, yeah, but you know what episodes of Family Guy are the best? The later ones. I mentioned the Boondocks earlier in that they had done the Blind Samurai thing first. To be honest though, I kind of think that this show tries to rip off from the Boondocks. I mean, I guess you could say they're both comedies based on certain demographics of people of color, but that's really it. I guess you could say they're fish out of water stories, but the Nutshack never talks about the differences between Metro Manila and the Bay Area. You can't even call them hood comedies because the Boondocks takes place in the suburbs, and it's way more ambitious in terms of scale than your typical hood comedy. Whenever the Boondocks does use hood elements, it's mostly to mock them and to parody them. The Nutshack presents its stereotypes and gross out material with very little self-awareness. The Nutshack is the kind of show made by this guy from the Boondocks, or the fan of the Boondocks who doesn't realize that the show is making fun of them. Yes, you, the lazy person with the low expectations. You're the butt of the joke. Stop laughing. I suspect the big joke of the Nutshack is, hey, look at these stereotypical black and Hispanic things, but these characters are Asians? What the hey? These characters act so similarly to these urban caricatures, and the Asian references are so few and far between that there's not really a joke to that either. One of the creators of this show, I don't know which one, is supposed to be like full-blooded Mexican. Maybe he tilted the direction a little bit that way. And honestly, these characters just, let's be honest, they look Mexican. And there are some, Mexicans that just do look Asian. I'm looking at you, Joaquin Castro. I know you kicked me out at the Texas Democratic Convention, but I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. Pan Pizza made the mistake that these characters were Mexican instead of Filipino, and he's even more Mexican than I am, so, we can't be the first people to make that mistake.
I really gotta take that guy to the dentist. The blind dick? Where's the blind dick? It's on my ding. The blind dick coming this way?
El Piñat Loco will handle this, Dwayne.
So, if the Pinoy culture is the only real interesting part of the show, and it's really the only thing the show has going for it that, no other show does, what does it bring to the table? Again, not that much. Episode 3 focuses on Jack getting a jeepney imported from the Philippines, and a jeepney is apparently a car used in the Philippines most often as a form of public transit. I looked up these cars, and judging by the episode, they're actually pretty rad. I mean, the rest of this episode is boring and doesn't focus on the car that much, which is disappointing because, damn, that's a nice looking car. I wouldn't mind one of those cars. Episode 7 has this weird old woman trying to sell balut. I'm assuming that's a Tagalog word for egg. They look like eggs. Let me look this up. Maybe it's like an ostrich egg or something, and holy shit, why the fuck would people eat this? Just eat chicken and eggs separately in a bowl of fried rice like civilized human beings. What the fuck? The Blind Samurai episode is a good nod to Pan-Asian culture. It's really obscure and it got me stumped. Again, it's a pretty lazy parody once you get into the fact that the jokes aren't any good. Other than that, I mean, we get the same characters you could find in any urban hood comedy. And I guess it's one thing if you want to portray Pinoy as being, the same as everybody else. but I don't buy that either. Yeah, in the universe of the show, there's not a lot of Pinoy culture shoved in everybody's face, and that's fine. I'm not saying there has to be, but outside of the show, it was heavily promoted itself on this. It's mentioned in the theme song. You can see the flags in many episodes. They're clearly trying to reach a demographic. The creators talk about their Pinoy pride a lot. And if you look on YouTube, you can see an interview with Adobo Nation, although beware watching this video if you're on headphones, the balance is terrible. And there's a Filipino host talking about how much she likes the show, which I assume makes her the greatest actress of all time. And some of the creators who work on the show talking about how proud they are to, represent their culture and their perspective into this kind of comedy. They are really sincerely proud of the work they created. And I'm sure you can laugh at their pride all you want because, the show itself is so god-awful. But it's really telling that, this is all they have. They're proud of themselves for a reason. There's no other show catering to Filipino Americans. Again, that's 3.5 million people. That's 500,000 more people than live in the state of Mississippi. And this is all they have? This lowest common denominator boring basura is all that they have to show? I'm imagining if you're an actual Pinoy, then it's really disappointing for you especially. I was devastated when Cristela on ABC got cancelled. It was the first Hispanic comedy on primetime network TV in a while, and it even took place in my own state to boot. Cristela was from hometown. She really had my experience as opposed to the California Hispanic experience that you often see in pop culture whenever Latinx characters are mentioned. But that doesn't change the fact that the show is honestly kind of cookie-cutter comedy when you take out the thrill of seeing your own lives represented in media. It's kind of tragic, to be honest. Now, I'm not trying to compare the show. Cristela, I will argue with it that it is a really good show, even if it is a little bland when it shouldn't be. And the Nutshack is absolutely irredeemable. But still, I think about my Pinoy friends who have never seen themselves in American culture. Think of the success of Blackish, or Fresh Off the Boat, or Dr. Ken. These are shows that started on equal footing with everyone else and made their way into the mainstream while still staying true to the lived experiences of the people who created and starred in them. And of course, even for, the Pan-Asian culture, that ghetto was strong for a while. I mean, the last primetime comedy to star an Asian before Fresh Off the Boat was that Margaret Cho show that just, oh man, they really stifled her. She deserves better. I tried to Google Filipino American stand-ups to see if there was anyone I'm just missing in the popular culture, and 2 results on the very first page of the Google results were from Rex Navarrete, one of the creators of The Nutshack. 3.5 million people.
This is my road. I pay taxes.
You suck!
You're the suck.
What is that, a tin can?
It's a jeepney, you stupid.
Yeah, this show, it's pretty pointless. At least when Family Guy is terrible, it's usually an interesting kind of awful, and the darts scatter so much that occasionally, once in a blue moon, they might get something right. This show is just boring. It's the worst kind of bad. It's the bad that makes you feel like you've wasted your time, that you've gained nothing from the experience, that you've seen just everything done so incorrectly. You can't believe that this even has to be explained to people. It's a wasted learning experience. Honestly, the most tragic thing about it was that there are people who somehow found this entertaining enough to warrant having a second season. I don't know what else to say. Just there's nothing redeeming about the show. Maybe if you're really high, or if you have terribly low standards, you might find something to like in its overall strangeness. But honestly, it seems too subdued for even the strange wackiness argument to be in effect. I won't even give credit for its diversity. This show just reeks of failure. And please, to my Pinoy friends, this cannot be the most well-known Filipino-American piece of media. Create something better. I believe in you. And that was my review of The Nutshack. God, that show was awful. What are your experiences with this monstrosity? Let me know in the comments. Are you offended by the lack of Filipino stereotype jokes I made in this video? That's because I was too lazy. If you like my videos, give me a shout out. If you like my videos, be sure to do all that usual stuff to support my channel and encourage this madness. If you like my videos, be sure to do all the stuff to support the channel and encourage this nonsense. While the ending title rolls, I'm going to look up what celebrities are Pinoy. Catch you later.